Hello, everyone, and this is my review for Impact Wrestling on March 23rd, 2017. And they base this show around the whole aspect, and they always refer to her as she. She was coming the entire night. I'll get into that at the end of the show because honestly, for the most part, this show is actually a very good Impact Wrestling show. They started off the show with Davey Richards going up against Suicide and what I thought was a decent match between both guys, but some decent back and forth. They're playing up this aspect of Angelina and Davey Richards kind of being affectionate during the entire match. To go along with everything to go with it. Otherwise, like, good match. It puts Davey over a little bit more as a singles competitor and everything in that aspect because he does win the match. But otherwise, nothing much to this match because you don't get anything with Eddie Edwards because he's out with everything Davey had done to him. So otherwise, decent match. Nothing much to it, but it does help put Davey over a little bit in that sense of everything. You had a LAX segment basically where they're kind of in this warehouse talking about how Impact Wrestling making a small smidget to the Hardys as well as like they came after my titles and tried to take my titles from us. Talk about the Crash promotion and having the Hardys actually win it and get out of there with the tag team titles. So they said they were coming after the Impact tag team titles for everything in that sense. I thought this was a good segment. It was a good way of kind of reintroducing LAX to everybody in the terms of showing off all the different characters and everything in that sense. You have, because basically like the only two original members of that are Homicide and Conan, so I'm still kind of getting used to the name, so I don't, like, they have a match later in the night. I'm not going to really know their names all that well. I'll attempt to learn that further down the line here. But up next after that one was they were doing a Laurel Van Ness thing where she's doing the whole crazy thing still from what happened with the wedding. You had and eventually Sienna comes up and tries to get her to get back together and everything in that sense. Like, we've got plans for both Allie and Braxton Sutter. You get a little promo from Allie and Braxton backstage. They don't really say much about anything. He's like, oh, I really like being with Allie and everything in that sense. So you don't get much in that one. So they're kind of furthering the storyline more on Sienna's side. They don't really do anything on Allie and Braxton Sutter's side on this week. So it was what it was there. I thought it was all right, and they're playing this whole aspect that Laurel's just gone completely nuts. She hasn't even taken off the wedding dress yet or anything in that sense, and it's not too bad. It'll be interesting to see how they play everything off of this down the line here. Up next, you had what they called an international six-man tag team match. The team of Muhammad Ali Shira, the Laredo Kid, Garza Jr. going up. Oh, okay. I'm going to butcher these names. I know one of the names was Mario. The other name was Fala Ba, yeah, and Idris Abraham. Yeah, this is actually a pretty good six-man tag match, though. I'm butchering the names there. Don't get me wrong on that one. I'm butchering the names, but I believe they had a tag team name for one of them. The other guy's going to be apparently Abraham's going to apparently be in the X division, and. But yeah, this was basically a good way of bringing in more talent again. It was a decent match between all sides. Garza Jr., Laredo Kid, and Muhammad Ali Shira get the win when Shira gets the pinfall victory at the end. But like I said, they're continuing on with this whole introducing a new talent. This week is probably one of the few weeks that they don't have all the new talent go over in a match. And you can't really say anything about with the aspect of the Laredo Kid or Garza Jr. because we've seen them now at least once. They're still relatively fresh and relatively new, but the other ones we hadn't seen them yet and like each week beforehand, they have been kind of putting those guys over in some way, shape, or form, but they don't do that here. So after this, we got a lot of we kind of got a lot of matches going through this show, or at least like a little bit of setup for a bunch of with just a bunch of like randomly put matches in here, and most of the matches tonight were rather good. Well, I wouldn't say good, but at least decent matches for the most part. So next you had Decay going up against Reno Scum. This was this was a good match, at least in my mind, at least a decent match in my mind. The aspect of Reno Scum going over, I like their finisher, the whole aspect of kind of like the curb stomp, a tag team curb stomp type move where one of the dudes jumps over the other and does kind of a curb stomp type motion for the finisher. I think it's a good looking finisher. My biggest problem right now with them is kind of their I won't say their gimmick because it's kind of biker-esque, and I don't mind that. It's just like their work on the microphone that we've seen so far. They seem to come off... they don't seem to come off as more big time. They seem to come off as like super indie. Like independent promotion that you wouldn't typically see on TV. You're like full-on local. Type indie promotion, which can be good, don't get me wrong. I've been to some local indie promotions out here in Arizona, and they can be fun, but they don't resonate well on television. I don't think Reno Scum does in that sense. I like the finisher. They're decent in the ring. It's their promo work that I have a big issue with, at least at this point, in which we didn't see any of that tonight, so I'm completely okay with it to go along with everything, because like I said, I thought this was a decent enough match. It was a rather good one. They have Reno Scum go over, and they keep promoting, and this is why we probably saw a lot of tag team matches tonight as well. They keep promoting the fact that there is going to be the tag team title match next week, and like, but they don't announce who's going to be in it or anything in that sense with everything to go along with. So we'll see who ends up being in that match next week. Up next after this, it was going to be Moose versus Eli Drake for the Grand Championship. Cody comes out of the limo that was sitting backstage. They had been, like I said, they had been doing this whole like, who is she thing throughout the entire night that JB keeps referring to, and they have this limo that they keep going to. Cody gets out of the limo and basically says, Brandon's like, oh, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything dumb, and he goes out there and just attacks Moose, laying him out, so the match doesn't even get going. And again, they do this to continue on the aspect of this Cody Moose feud, and I've actually been liking it, and I like this aspect of it as well. Cody had been waiting for Moose for the last couple weeks. Moose comes back, and Cody goes right after him. I like that aspect of it, and it's a good way of just continuing up, building a little bit of heel heat. I even like the aspect is like, you have Moose waiting for his entrance, his music plays, but you see Cody running backstage, going to where quote-unquote gorilla position would be for them, and just waylays him with a chair as he is about to go out. Good stuff. Crossroads to Moose on the stage, and that was basically how they ended the segment. They did some good stuff there, and they now announce again for the next week that Cody will go up against Moose for the Grand Championship. Again, I wish they would have a full division around this championship. Just saying. It's like they could have rankings. They could do a lot of things with this. No, it's like the only time they refer to these rules in any way, shape, or form is when that match is about to happen and the title's on the line, because that's the way we decided to do things. Up next was LAX going up against the DCC. Again, this is a rather good match with DCC and LAX. I don't know the other two guys' names or the female's name yet for them, so I really only know Conan and Homicide for the time being. But they were at ringside for the match. They weren't in the match. So the two newer guys for LAX, I thought came off rather well. Good good in ring on all sides, good back and forth between both sides, little bit of interference and everything. They continue playing up the whole aspect that the DCC doesn't fully get on the same page at any given point in time, where Eddie Kingston distracts the referee from doing from seeing a tag, but he stays up there too long and prevents James Storm or prevents Brand from getting in the ring because he tags. They're almost no, they weren't really playing the faces in this one. Neither team's really the face on this one. They were kind of trying to do devious stuff throughout the entire match. Also, one good thing to note, they brought back the LAX entrance. Back when LAX was originally going when it was TNA wrestling, or Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, they decided to... they had done this whole aspect that they didn't like the how they were being treated. So they didn't want to go through the normal entrance ramp. So they had one that was in the crowd. Almost like how Aces and Eights did it years later, but they had done it beforehand, and they brought it back. I like that. I like the aspect of them bringing that back and adding that nice little touch to it. LAX goes over in this match, and you have more problems with the DCC. With everything. They kind of argue afterwards. I don't know if... Because I had to step out towards right after this match had ended, and they were doing arguing in the ring, so I wasn't fully hearing everything. I don't think anything else other than problems and arguing happened after that. I could be wrong on that one, though. Up next... this was pretty much the only match that I can say was not very good in any way, shape, or form throughout the night. Though the next match afterwards was more of a squash match, but it wasn't really that bad. You had Rebel going up against ODB. Yes, Rebel came back with everything, and ODB's back as well. This match was pretty much comedy throughout the entire thing. And don't get me wrong, comedy matches aren't bad when the in-ring can still be good. But there's a couple little comedy spots here and there. The problem was that this match, outside of the comedy spots, was completely bad in every way, shape, or form. Well, not in every way, shape, or form, but for the most part, I didn't really like this match all that much. Though, like I said, the comedy spots were not too bad. You had a bit with Earl Hebner, where Rebel teased slapping Earl Hebner throughout the entire match, and then she goes to do it. He stops her and ends out kissing Rebel after taking her cowboy hat. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad in that stretch of the imagination. And then ODB goes for the flask, but Earl Hebner takes the flask, and the drink was too strong for him. And then ODB is like, oh, okay, your turn, and then kisses him back to go with everything. Not bad comedy spots. Spot-wise, it was kind of and Rebel wasn't that good to begin with back when she was originally in Impact Wrestling, but it doesn't look... She improved a little bit, but it doesn't look like she improved that much. There was some sloppiness in the moves and everything in that sense that you could definitely tell. But otherwise, comedy-style match, ODB goes over in the end. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't good. It wasn't even really decent either, but it wasn't absolutely horrible though. Up next, you had Lashley going over Jake Holmes in a squash match. They did this or a portion of this interview segment, and then they tell you to go to ImpactWrestling.com to get the rest of it, where Bruce Pritchard interviews Bobby Lashley, and he basically goes over his story. And that's one thing I haven't seen Bobby Lashley talk about his story. And man, some of the stuff that he had to go through, and talking about potentially being in the Olympic team, if they're not just playing that up for kayfabe in any way, shape, or form, and the stuff that ends up happening to Bobby Lashley, how can I not be cheering for this guy? Other than the fact that he decides that he just beats up people for the sake of beating him up and does heel tactics inside the ring. Otherwise, his story is kind of... It's one that says, I kind of want to cheer for that. And I want to cheer for that person. in that sense. And the only thing that really stops you is the aspect that, okay, he's squashing this guy. And he does a heel tattoo. It's like, oh no, I'm not going to get the pin here. I'm going to do another move before getting the pin or something in that sense. Or like how he's come off on his promos. But how he came off in this interview is completely different than how he comes off on any of his promos in any way, shape, or form. Like he seems humbled. He seems that, and it was just kind of different of where they were going with the Bobby Lashley character. This one seemed more humbled and more thankful for everything, where the other one's more like cocky and arrogant with everything in that sense. And I thought the interview was good. I did. It was one of those bits like, I kind of want to cheer Lashley. I do. It was a good interview. I liked it. I liked what they did with it, though it does break the differences between the real life Bobby Lashley and the character Bobby Lashley in that sense of everything as well. Maybe they're sensing for a face turn or something in that sense down the road here. Who knows what they're going to try to do with this? They could be kayfabing that up to try to make a face turn, which I wouldn't mind either. Like I said, this was pretty good stuff that they did with this particular segment with Bruce Pritchard and Bobby Lashley. So some good stuff there. Up next was, this was the last segment of the show. So they're like I said at the beginning of the show, the beginning of this review, they've been talking about who is this she and everything in that sense. So JB's in the ring, and lo and behold, the she that he is talking about, and he brings her out, is Karen Jarrett. Now I stayed throughout the entire segment here, but I'm not gonna lie, with the aspect of it being 3 weeks into the aspects of Bruce Pritchard, Jeff Jarrett, and these guys showing up to do the whole reimagining of Impact Wrestling, it took them 3 weeks to get a Jarrett on TV. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind Jeff Jarrett, and on an aspect of watching this company for so long, you go on the aspect that, Jeff Jarrett started that company a long time ago. You got to be respectful of that aspect of it, but there's a point in time just to stay off TV. Like the crowd had gotten so against Jeff Jarrett at one point that it was best for him to be gone and stay gone in that sense. But it seems like whenever he comes back in, it's like, I've got to be on TV, or Karen has to be on TV. And don't get me wrong on that one. Like, I don't know them personally. It's just like on TV, especially on TV in the terms of Karen Jarrett, she's not a wrestling person. She doesn't sound like a wrestling person in any way, shape, or form. And they don't even describe her role here. It almost feels like that she's supposed to be a manager of some kind, but they don't even say what her role is going to be in any way, shape, or form in this one. Like I said, this show was good until there, and I was so tempted to say, click the channel and leave. But I stayed. She starts talking, and they're giving her a welcome back chant, and that's completely fine in that sense as well, to go along with everything. Like I said, I don't necessarily care all that much, but at least she's getting a response from the crowd, and I'm assuming other people end up liking the fact that she's back as well, in some way, shape, or form too. They start doing a Fire Josh chant. The crowd does as well. It's like, we're going to be making some changes, and then they immediately start chanting Fire Josh. It's like, oh, that could be one of those changes. You never know. This eventually brings out EC3. And I feel heel turn EC3 coming again. Like, he's been a face for a little while, ever since the whole Matt Hardy stuff back last year. And now he could be going back to heel again. And I like the line, though Josh kind of diminishes it right afterwards with everything. He starts talking about, it's like, your main players here. I'm here to do everything. But he says, I'm not going to do it for your name. I'm going to do it for my name. referring to his last name being Carter. So going to the aspect of Dixie Carter and everything in that sense, I like the aspect that they use that in some way, shape, or form to go along with this. But lo and behold, like after he says that line, Josh is like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I've got something to say," and everything. Like immediately afterwards, almost diminishing everything. Though he gets a massive heel pop out of it to go along with everything. He starts kind of shooting on everybody, even shooting on the fans, saying it's like, see, they come here for free because they can't afford a ticket. And apparently they had to edit out something saying that they couldn't afford a ticket to go to NXT, them being in Orlando as well and everything in that sense. It was... I am not a big fan of this one. I like the aspect of what they did with Michael Cole back in the day as a heel play-by-play commentator. But then again, it kind of added a dynamic to Michael Cole at that point. Like, I was kind of getting bored with Michael Cole at that point in time. And honestly, he was doing some of his best work here. It wasn't fully coming off as obnoxious and everything in that sense, where I feel like Josh is like, just like not doing the whole. Josh is like coming off extremely obnoxious in every way, shape, or form doing this role, where he's it's hard to say. I'm not really liking it as much with Josh Matthews as I did with Michael Cole back in the day, and maybe it's just an aspect of them doing it that I've seen it before, don't necessarily want to see it again, or he's doing it differently in certain ways that I'm not fully seeing, but I can tell I'm not liking it with every sense of the word there. This does eventually lead to him getting in Karen Jarrett's face, saying something, and he gets slapped for it. And that's pretty much how they ended the show with everything. So, overall show. I liked pretty much everything right up to that last segment. Right to that last segment, I liked everything. Though I did like the aspect of EC3 stuff inside of that segment. The entire segment as a whole, just like, it took him only 3 weeks to get a Jarrett on freaking television. Really? Like, with bringing everybody in, it took him only 3 weeks to do it after changing everything up. Yeah. Otherwise, good show. So, with that being said, guys, that is my review of Impact Wrestling this week. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day.